So today I have with me a special guest. I think it's the first time we're meeting each other anywhere, like virtually and offline. So, but the only thing we have in common is that we are both students of SUTD, which is Singapore University of Technology and Design, in the architecture course. And she's a junior and currently studying and interning as well. For myself, I feel that my education at SUTD has been quite enriching. But even though there's some challenges along the way, but looking back, I feel that like I've learned quite a lot, and as well as I also know of ways to improve it. So it's good to talk to somebody who's currently in the syllabus, and uh, I know there's some changes between now and later and previously. So I'm very happy to introduce you to Robyn. Yeah, please hi, say hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so thanks for joining me today. I wanted to know more about you and also how you feel about education in general, or you know, like life. So for those who
Mm.
do not know about you, just give a moment to introduce yourself, say where you're from, what you're doing, any hobbies, and stuff like that. Yeah.
Hi. My name is Ryan. My actual name is Ryan, but on social media and actually most people outside of school know me as Robyn, which is my so-called alias that I use for all my outside gigs and things like that to keep my academic and my social life separate from each other. But of course, as you can tell, I'm still the same one person. So I do both things in school and things out of school. Personally for me, I'm an term 6 student, as Gabriel has mentioned, and my hobbies include music. I also enjoy fashion, as you can clearly tell, and modeling and drawing and just meeting people and getting to know people of every age. And so, like conventions, I would enjoy going for those. And once in a while, I would play games with my friends, and then we'll be like cooking and stuff. So that's the stuff I usually do with my life. Yes.
Very interesting stuff you have. We'll talk about all your side projects later. But I feel that the main thing that I want to ask you right now is like, how do you feel about the education? As in, currently you're interning, correct? Or you just
I actually just stopped interning. I went back to
or just
term
finished it?
6. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So it's pending for the new term to start.
It has started for about 2 weeks now. Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay. So yeah. So looking back, I think for the past few years in your education, how do you feel that you know uh, you have? Is there anything that you learned that you take away? Anything important that you've learned? Any challenges you face within your education itself?
I mean, for me personally, I went through term 4 and 5 in architecture before going to intern, and I would say interning exposed me to what like possibly work life could look like for me. As in when I graduate, possibly I'll graduate with more knowledge and maybe do more complex things. But it is a quite a good taste of how it's like. So for me personally, like what I learned in term 4 and 5 that was useful was actually how to think. Like above all, the important thing that I learned was how to look at problems, how to solve them, and how to basically experience like challenges and find solutions for them. And how we can look at different angles, how we can do research, how we can perhaps analyze different sources and things which may not traditionally be seen as architecture, but would help enrich my experience. For example, like before coming to SUTD, I saw buildings as like just brick and mortar, like I would say structures that rise out of the ground. Okay, they look pretty, they're aesthetic. But then after coming to SUTD and architecture, I learned about the inspirations that go behind each building. For example, in term 4, we chose an artist to create a museum for. For example, so like we looked into how they think, how they use the space, and how they would potentially attract people to enjoy their artworks through our building. So we become facilitators of like how people use stuff. But when I went to intern, right, one thing that was very very different from like my uni days is that suddenly it was not just us and a fictitious client. There was a real client and real authorities to answer to. Like we spent 2 months, actually most of our brain power was spent trying to figure out the fire engine access way and how to fit that into our site, because initially we had in my internship we had designed the rough block massing of everything. Then we realized we did not have a fire engine access. So it's things like this that make the real world come back to you, you know, like, oh, now we have so many stakeholders. Suddenly, like, is very different from what we learn in school, because it's no longer you, the prof, and some imaginary client, but suddenly there is real people and real stakes on the line and real money that is going to be spent on real things. So like it makes me both excited and scared at the same time, in a way. Yeah.
Very interesting thing you pointed out about internship, because yeah, even myself included, like I also agree with you. There's a gap between education and practice, and it's always said, like this is always in on social media or in conversations everywhere around the world. There's a gap. There is a gap between what you learn in school and what you actually practice. Yeah. So things like fire engines as way, I didn't even know about it until like we intern, right? So all these things are I mean, there's a reason for not sharing these type of things earlier. Firstly, because maybe like you don't want to limit your imagination and creativity. Yeah, but at least having an internship in the middle of your education actually gives you like exposure to, you know, all these technical requirements. Yeah. So things like these, I feel that sometimes if there's only a way to actually uh make it easy to understand, and sometimes they will be surprised, like, hey, this what is this, what's this. There's a lot of different things there. Yeah, and I'm talking about the difference in like you learning about thinking, like asking questions. Yeah, so that is also a critical skill that I think the schools have been successful in. I mean, like,
Mm.
because through the design briefs and through the different deliverables that you need to do, I mean, it's a challenge how we think and how we react and propose solutions. Yeah. So all these things are kind of like, how do I say, it is it is still needed, but it's whether there's a balance of like what do you need to learn, and is it really important, or can you have more time to learn other things that is more important than what you're learning in school.
Mm.
What do you think about the proportion of the technical and non-technical side of architecture in school? Do you think that it could be tweaked, or do you think you should still focus on just purely like the exploratory, research based, non-technical side of things in school, and then you just find out after you graduate?
Personally, for me, in school, I feel that they taught a lot about, like, how to use different softwares, and that was about the limit of the technicality. The sad part was that all the softwares they taught, it so happened that the company I worked for, which was DP Architects, they used different software entirely. Fortunately for me, I had some background in some of the things, and for me, actually, personally, I have a boyfriend who is a senior, so he had already gone through the Revit course, then he could help me a little bit, so I didn't look
You're very
like
lucky to have a
completely dumb.
boyfriend, like a senior who is in Archi, in
Yes, he
Archi,
just
right?
graduated.
Yeah, yeah. So you're fortunate to have somebody to actually look up to and ask for help. Because
Yes,
not many people
it
have
was
that.
very useful. Like throughout my entire architectural life, I am very grateful to have someone to look up to and help me. Uh Actually, in my company also, I was very fortunate because there was somebody who was just a bit older than me, like maybe around 5, 6 years. He had graduated for a while and was going for the exam for the architects, the QP, and he actually also mentored me greatly and helped me a lot. Like whenever I didn't know anything, like I felt very free to ask him questions because he was just a bit older, but not so old and so high up there
At
and
least
senior
relatable,
and
like
wise.
like there's maybe like 20s, like 25, 26.
Yeah, he's about 30.
Oh, okay, okay.
He's almost 30.
I'm 28, so it's like quite similar. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm also preparing for my exam like this year, like in November. So yeah, it's a stressful period for me as well. But yeah, I understand the gap, right? You need someone to consult who is senior, maybe
Mm.
senior in school or senior a bit more. So there's different levels of seniority, and then but you can still relate, cause he's still there, like maybe give or take 5 years after school or 10 years after school.
Mm.
It is still okay to at least he still understands like the technology side of architecture, like for example the Revit you mentioned.
Yes.
So yeah, but software is not everything that we need to know. I mean, some of the practices like like I've been to two practices. So one is at Semcorp Architects. The other one was currently at Matsabana Jurong.
Mm.
Two different approaches. So one I was very hands on Revit for Semcorp,
Mm.
the first one. Second one, now in Sabana, I'm more not really drafting per se, but I can still pick up like ArchiCAD. It's a nice software.
Mm.
So ArchiCAD is quite, I'm still learning about it actually. So, but the things that I had a good foundation in Revit in school as well, like for example in school, I think in term 6, for those who do not know, we also learn, I learned in term 6. So term 6, we learn Revit. And then after that, those skills can be transferred to other softwares, like BIM software. So that is quite useful for me so far, and
Mm.
has been, I think, one of the best skills that I've learned, other than Grasshopper and like the basic stuff, like like presentation, communication, all these. So that is, and the problem solving aspects. So it's the technical side, software side is like the BIM skills are much needed, especially in the industry today. Yeah, and then also you mentioned about, yeah, having somebody to look up to. I think that's very important, especially not only just for the technical side, but also for like emotional support, or like if you're stressed, there's somebody to ask, like, how can I uh get over this hump. For example, if you're feeling, I don't know, like stuck or stressed, tired, angry. Yeah, so these are all things. It's good to have somebody senior. But I also feel that, I think I realized until now, like, you need to find someone who's also junior to guide. So it's kind of like a give and take situation.
Mm.
But usually in school, we don't really care about the juniors. Like, we try to, we're more worried about ourselves. Like, we need to finish something on time. And then, like, if we can actually help the juniors, but give it, if it's time to do it. But I think more and more, we need more emphasis on this kind of collaboration between the different batches. I'm not sure about your time now currently.
For me personally, like when I first went into architecture, right? Even before I entered SUTD, I have a few friends in sketches who mostly are architectural students due to the nature of the fifth row, which is a CCA. Like, um, yeah, so there's a lot of architects there, super old ones like 70, all the way to like people who are in masters in maybe term 6, term 7, this kind. And I was fortunate that I knew someone who was in masters. So even before I had gone into SUTD, I would go to SUTD. That time there was no COVID, so I could just go in and help him build some of his models. I really learned a lot of techniques just by helping. By so-called giving away my time, I gained so much more knowledge for it, and that was very helpful. Like, I think as a junior, I think we should seek out people to mentor us, to like, we have to take the first step to so-called give something so that we can also receive. It's not so much the what can you give me kind of thing, but what can I offer and give you back
Like,
in a
how can I
way.
serve? Like, how can I help
Yes.
others? Yeah, because
And
knowing what you've learned that you couldn't have gotten by yourself, like maybe someone has guided you along the way, like, if you can actually transfer whatever knowledge you had to somebody else who's more junior. And yeah, like
yes,
it's like basically like what you said, like it's a give and take, like, kind of situation.
juniors give labor. Juniors can offer, can give their labor. They can
Yes,
give their hands.
I
Everyone
mean,
has
yeah,
hands.
I try not to ask juniors though. I don't know about you, but yeah, I don't know, because I had always had this contention that either we do it ourselves or we narrow down the scope of the model. We don't do so much of the model. Yeah, because I always felt that the model, physical model itself, is not really important in that sense. Like the detailing, it's more of the concept design. Like, what is the
Mm.
concept that's driving the design? That is more important than spending time to make the model very pretty and nice. Yeah, that's my own opinion. But yeah, just yeah, but they can also help if they're willing to help lah. If they're willing to help,
You can spend more time on the concept if someone's building a model for you with
yeah,
the
that is also
concept.
true. So there's two sides of the story, right? So it's whether you want to be personally involved in the model making, or you want
Sub out.
to support. Yeah, right. So I'm not saying that it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that my own personal view is that I don't do it.
Mm.
But that is still okay. Anyway, the focus that I want to shift towards now in the conversation is more about, like, the time you spend, like time management, and then also how do you juggle everything, right? I think I'm looking through your intro paragraph that you sent me. It was quite a lot of hobbies that you do outside of
Mm.
architecture, right? And I think it's very healthy to pursue hobbies that are not necessarily like linked to architecture itself. Like, even I myself working at the archi firm, but now I'm just recording podcasts and out on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. So
Mm.
yeah. So I was wanted to hear about how do you have any sort of guiding principles in terms of like setting your time for
Managing
other
time,
things?
stuff like that.
Yeah. How do you go about it?
For me, I think one important thing for me is that I used to live my life very short term, like, oh, I have this assignment due, I have this test. But when I came into architecture, I realized that, you know what, architecture is something not like a test. Like, I study for it and then I just go for it, and then after that, it's over. No, architecture is your life. Like, literally, every second of your life is architecture. So I realized one thing that was very important to me is how I choose to manage my time. And one way I do it is to make a list of what's important to me. Like, what do I want at the end of my life? Like, we only have this many years on earth. I know I'm kind of young to say this, but we only have this many years on earth. And what do we want to leave behind? What do we want to have experienced? I mean, for example, you can build another maybe 50 buildings and go on no vacations, and I don't know, maybe you have another five prizes. By the end of your life, like, so much accolades, what can you do with it? Am I just gonna like paste it on myself and be like, yeah, now I'm a pretty model? But I feel that for me, so some things that are important to me would be, for example, I have a boyfriend, right? Someone had mentioned in a talk like a few days prior that having a boyfriend is like an extra mod you have to take. I think that's very unfortunate way of seeing it,
It is
personally.
okay. Never mind. Yeah, I don't think it's true. Yeah.
Yeah, as in, okay, maybe I'm the extra mod for my boyfriend, but think it that way, that I feel that like, a relationship should be there to support you. Should feel natural and like part of your life. The same way architecture should feel part of your life. And like, even the other things for me, like, for example, I do modeling, right? The reason why I do modeling is because I want to have pictures of myself when I was young at the end of my life that were high quality and not like taken with a phone. Like that's just sad, man. I feel like, I think that memories that you can make and the people that you meet along the way using the different hobbies. Like, for example, I also do fashion, right? I organize fashion walks and things like that. Is fashion actually related to buildings? I'm gonna build a cloth building? No, right? But the idea is that the people that I meet there, I talk to them and I learn a lot of experiences. Like, for example, I also go to church. So does church actually like add on to my architecture? Not really in the most direct sense, but I met someone who was a occupational therapist, for example. And when she talked to me and shared her experiences with how she interacted with the people and their needs, then I feel that I can empathize better. For example, if I were to design any medical facility or any hospital, I can think from the point of view of really my user. Because for me as an architect, I don't, and you, I'm sure you don't meet a lot of dementia patients every day, for example. But then meeting people actually is my greatest gain out of all these hobbies. I feel that my life view is so much bigger. And also because of COVID. By the way, I got my passport just before COVID started. So this is the most unfortunate thing. I never really got to travel. I am going to travel after COVID. But like, these experiences really help shape the way I would design spaces. I would be more conscious of like accessibility and ramps for people. I would be more like, I mean, I personally do not need a wheelchair, but I know a lot of people who know people who need such accessible spaces and things like that. It becomes more forefront and important to us because we can put faces and names to these people, and therefore we will be more empathetic in our design, because we have past an age of just building roofs over walls. It's now more a case of how we can serve the public through our architecture. Like, for me, architecture is to build something which is functional and beautiful at the same time. So like, in its function is beautiful and things like that. So my hobbies actually are mostly aesthetic and they really add on. For example, another one that is like seemingly unrelated but in the end became super useful was, I used to work I used to manage an event company, by the way. So in the event company, we had to edit a lot of audio. We did videos and stuff like that. And I was the one who basically pieced all this stuff together. I thought this skill is like completely useless in daily life. I would never need to touch it. But in term five, I don't know whether you had it. We had Unreal Engine, which basically we had to create a video of a simulation video of a place that we wanted to design. And these skills were insanely useful. Like, I could make my own audio soundtrack. I could like splice the video in like all kinds of ways. I could like learn how to use the filter. I could know the filters, the contrast, the settings. And basically, although to be very honest, if you had seen the actual like Unreal Engine version, you'll be like, but then if you see the final product, it's like miles
And after you
apart from it.
post process everything, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
post processing is like
yeah. I didn't get to
very
do it.
important.
I didn't get to do it. I think it was after we graduated, and then the next batch. I think
Then
two
they
batches
got it.
later. Yeah. It's a very interesting thing to learn in school, I feel.
Hmm.
But I think you're fortunate enough to learn it. it's like another way of presenting your design to the client, for example. But it takes a lot of time, I think. And anyways, yeah, you were mentioning about a lot of things that I think is very interesting to talk about just now. For example, I think one of the things you mentioned about is like, having like somebody, you don't, all these hobbies that you have, right? It adds on some value to your
Mm.
design approach, to your design process. And I agree with that, firstly, because like it may not seem very direct, like, it is not a subset of architecture per se, but it informs the way you know you design something, or you think about other things apart from the conventional design
Walls and
parameters. Yeah, correct. So you think about the people who are there and who are going to use the building. It's very important. And sadly, not many of architects do it in like practice, because firstly there's like the design brief given to you from the client, and there's no time to do all these like interviews, or maybe there'll be some but not well documented, or maybe not well ranged, like in terms of the scope of the people that you ask, right? And yeah, that could be. I hope you take it with you, like having this thirst for knowledge and to connect people around the world, and no matter different backgrounds. Yeah, it's always interesting to meet people, like for example now I'm meeting for the first time, right? And I think that's a very good opportunity to just learn from one another, because I can attest to the fact that connection is very important, especially in this age, right? We need all these connections and network, especially on
mm.
social media. If you intend to use social media, like you use marketing, our own personal brands, it is very important, especially when there's so many young architects now. And I think personally, I feel there's too many of us, but we are all doing the same thing, right? So
Yes.
how do we differentiate ourselves from the rest? And I think what you're doing is very great, because you spend time outside of architecture to do things. It may not necessarily be helpful now in school, but I can guarantee you, after you graduate, if you have time, don't spend your 9 to 5 until 9 to 9 sometimes to do like architecture. Then on the weekends just slack off and to rest, but to also continue to do the passions that you have. Yeah, that's my advice as well. And I also wanted to talk about a lot of the things that you say about your faith, like how it I would say that it would give you that strength, I guess. It's not a how does how it it's not, you can't quantify it, like you can't say like how does faith help you in right. It's just whether you have
Pray
the
my
strength to
project
move
can
forward.
finish.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like if you go for church, then you can get 1 hour of like free time or don't know what. So no, it's not like that, right? So it's not very direct connection, like between faith and your work. But I guess it's just like the energy that you have can be increased after you have focused, like your clarity is there, like maybe through prayer or something like that. You focus for your next upcoming work task. Yeah, so that is
Uh,
the
I would like to interject. For me personally, while faith is like useful for the grounding and things like that, I think the best part I got out of faith, right, was gratefulness, because one thing in architecture is that I must admit lah, it's very tiring. Like, it is very, very tiring. If you wanted to choose a triathlon, or this is a quintalon or something, basically you're supposed to like thank everything and then somehow make something. I would say that it's thankfulness and gratefulness, because like a lot of times we feel that, oh, work is just shoveled onto us and then we're just getting buried. I feel that like being grateful for the opportunities that we have, and being grateful for our friends, and being grateful for the time that we have. Like, for example, I'm very grateful for the opportunity here today, like to meet you, because I wouldn't meet you otherwise, right? Like COVID. So I think that this gratefulness ability would like counteract the tiredness factor that architecture just shovels onto you. Like, cause my schedule personally, in the morning I go to school. I usually try and schedule my classes in the morning, and get the lectures over and done with. I can start doing my projects and stuff. Sometimes in the evening I go and meet friends, and then at night I would just continue doing my work until I sleep. Like at 3 a.m. in the morning, you're like, why did I do this to myself? I could have just just stayed and just did my work continuously. Maybe I can sleep earlier, but then we are missing out on the human experience and the life that we are living in a way. You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah. But you also need a mental break as well. Like you can't just work continuously, right? Like whole, let's say you
Yeah.
said morning lessons, and then straight away you go for lunch, and then after that you go straight to do work, and then you don't have dinner sometimes, maybe have dinner and then at night time continue to work. That's not the way. It's not sustainable. I mean,
It's
from my experience as well,
depressing.
it is depressing. Yeah, even though maybe you really, really, really enjoy doing work, but no, I don't. I don't personally agree with the lifestyle that. I mean, it's my own personal opinion again, lah, right? But it's also you need a mental break in between, not just for like physical break, but you need to think about maybe other things. Because sometimes I think there's some studies about like when you take a mental break, then you come back to the same problem again, right? Design problem. You couldn't have a solution after before I took a break.
He said,
After the
"Oh, I'm
break,
smarter now."
yeah, you have a breakthrough that you know what to do because you took the time off, maybe like 15 minutes, 30 minutes, just to have a coffee with somebody and talk about life, and then that thing could inspire you for your next solution. That is one of the things that I did. I mean, even in school as well, like really take some time off and don't. I try to do it in like blocks of time, right? So you just maybe like if you know your longest, how do I call it, flow state, right? Like you can work deep focus for like 3 hours maximum, 2 hours maximum. They can take a break, but maybe in between you can take like 5 minute break, 5 minute break, 5 minute break all the way. But knowing how you study, how you do your work, the manner that you can do it over the whole day. So like planning out the day is very important because yeah, like I can do 2 hour study block, working block, but in the middle of the 2 hours I can take a break in the one hour. Yeah, so that is how I did it. Like I also like took time off to go and have dinner like outside of school. Or like, for example,
I'm
you
sorry, but
don't.
SUTD food is
Yeah, some
like a
people
bit
do
sad.
stay in school for lunch and dinner. So it's like no, I have to go out of the school physically, out of the studio physically to have dinner with
I smell
friends.
the outside air.
Yes, correct. So
Ah.
that is yeah, I'm happy that to know that you are going out as well. So it's good. Like out of the studio once in a while, and then have dinner outside of school. Talk to friends for like maybe 1 hour, and then you can come back. Yeah. So that is quite interesting to know. Like how do their life, the way they plan their day differs, and what are the results from that? Like, do they feel like productive and not productive? So it's always like a point of debate, how to manage the time per se.
Actually, for me personally, it's quite strange because I when I want to do work, I want to do work. I will just do the work. And then when I don't want to do work, right, nothing is going to make me do work. Even the incentive of after 2 hours work, I can eat a dessert. No, it is not enough. Basically, very odd. But for me, like my brain only wakes up around like now, like 2, 3 p.m. In the morning, I'm basically a zombie. Don't talk to me. I will just sit in lecture like this. So, like those who know me at night know me as a very friendly and open person. In the morning, I'm just like so I only do work at night because that's when my brain really like gets actually decently good ideas and like I'm coherent and not just a babbling zombie at that point when I have to like write stuff. I write it at night because in a way I have figured out that I'm a night owl kind of person, you know what I mean? So like choosing the block of time that is the most applicable to the task that I'm supposed to do is best. For example, attending lecture, your silent is good. So you just sit there. And then when you're having to churn out and produce creative works, you gotta have something in you that's coming out, you know what I mean? That kind of
Yeah,
thing.
like something that requires a lot of thinking, right? You should do it
Yeah.
when it's the optimum time. Like you say, you wake up in the afternoon, right? Like now, that means now is the time to do your like thinking work, creative work. And then there's like part of the work that you need to do is just like drafting the line, drawing the lines, and like doing the colors.
Or that one morning. For me,
Oh, morning
morning.
so not doing
Ju-
lecture.
anything that don't need think on, put in the morning.
Yeah. Right. So those in doing the thing, put it when you're not fully awake. Yeah. So that is also what I did as well. I also try to put my time uh for like drafting and when I do it, I'm more a morning person, so I don't work past 12. So 12 o'clock is when I leave the studio. Most of the days lah. When it's an intense period. Yeah. So I would wake up at like 7 and continue the work. So that's like a very structured uh sleep time and wake up time. And then that is how I did it lah. So in the morning I'll just do the very creative work because I'm quite awake in the morning.
The
and
brain
then
is like,
and
yes.
yes, like yes, I can think about it, because I maybe unfortunately dreamt about it and then in the morning I have a solution. Like I know how to tweak my design to still meet the design brief but maybe in a better way. Yeah. So all these mental breaks are and also the way you schedule we schedule our own workflows across the whole day is very important. And I hope for anybody who's listening, like students who are still starting out, especially first years, right? You're still figuring out, am I a night owl? Am I a morning genius kind of person? And
Morning
then
bird.
yeah, and then can I work? How long can I work? Can I work for 2 hours straight, or do I need to take a break sometimes? So I think the first year, for those listening, right, the first year as a student, that's the first thing you need to find out, right? I'm sure you agree. Like, you need to know who you are, how do you function as a human being, like how do you work, and then to make architecture work like fit to your schedule. Correct.
Actually, one unfortunate thing that I realized during my internship, right, is that in the morning I have to have creative work too. So, oops, but
Unfortunately,
it's okay. So I try and calibrate my sleep clock in such a way that my mornings now become a night lah. So I rearrange my schedule in such a way that I come back from work and I sleep immediately, so that I would feel that when I'm awake, I'm at work. Like, how's it? I have to arrange the schedule because one thing about like other people is unfortunately they don't cater to us lah. Architecture is a huge, the main part of it is to me a huge logistical nightmare lah. Putting all these stakeholders together and deciding like, oh, something must come out. So like I have to agree to like other people's like time in a way. And actually personally I'm doing my studio project now on this idea of body time versus mechanical time in a way. So like how society imposes time on us versus how we take time for ourselves. Like, while this like sounds great as a student, this is the best part of student life. You can actually choose when you want to do the work. One unfortunate thing is that when you come out into the world, right, it ain't like that, man.
that is true. Yeah, that is true. So, you have to follow the company timeline. Like, wake up, start work. I mean, there's some flexibility there. Like, you can start a bit later or a bit earlier. Like it's definitely still like 9 o'clock in the morning, for example. Then you can
Actually,
plus
I
minus
know
half an
a
hour.
senior which like he told the company he wanted to change his working hours, so he would start work actually at around 12, but he would end at around like 10 or 11 that every day. So like he chose his hours. I mean, he's quite senior lah, but he's like 40ish. I mean, at that point you can still choose, but what is quite interesting is that he knew what he wanted. You know what I mean?
I think that's very important as well. Unfortunately, you can't choose when you're like junior lah. I
Yeah.
think, but you can also like say, I mean, at the most you can plus minus half an hour lah. 'Cause I mean now, especially with COVID, working from home, right? Nobody can actually check whether what time you start work lah. And but I mean, you have to attend meetings in the morning if there is. But if your personal work like working time, you can start later and end later. I think that's fine, and it should be accepted by employers nowadays because you can't. I mean, if you don't trust the employees to do the work at a certain time, then I don't understand why you hired the person in the first place, lah. Right? So that is what I see. The trend is going towards like flexible work hours, maybe even like you can actually take the break when you want to take a break and then do it in the weekend. So it's more flexible in that sense.
Actually, for me, one thing that's quite interesting was during my time at DP, right? There was a few times there's submission, so everyone just chong through the night, lah, huh? Staying up is not a normal thing. We actually did until the next day time to submit, which was like 9 a.m. They just keep like piling changes. So it was like 24 hours of work continuously. And then they paid us for overtime and they said, now you guys can all take the day off and sleep.
Yeah.
All you
So
go sleep.
that's the thing. Like you see, the employers understand to some degree, like the work nature, right? It sometimes it's too intense that you have to do it overnight, for example. I
After
mean,
that, the
not
boss will know
not
also.
ideal, but like I we they still are some people who are doing it, like clients making changes later, too late. Yeah, but I mean, we can talk about how it can be avoided, but if it happens and then employers know that you stayed up late, I'm sure they will ask you to go
No,
home.
they were staying up late with us. All of us were
Yeah,
there.
yeah, all the bosses are there, right? So that's the thing lah. So personally, also I'll only work OT if my boss is working also. That's my main golden rule. If your boss is not working, then why should you work, right?
If it's important enough, the guy also will be there. He'll be like trying to chong also.
Correct.
Or
So
be
so
like
that's
going.
that's so if for those perfectionists out there, like I think who work very late on their own accord, right? That is one reason, one way to decide whether you should stay at working longer. Uh, Either to maybe to say that I need to do this by a certain time, but if is that the deadline, can it be shifted or can the work scope be less, like
Mm.
reduced? or progressive submission kind of thing. So that is one strategy that I wish I knew when I just graduated. So I can share with you now, like, how do you get work done, right? Like, if you cannot make it in time, I think, like, this is my biggest advice is just to find a way to ask a client to firstly either reduce the time, reduce the workload, or progressive submission. If you give part A, part B, part C, like over a longer time, or find a way to shift the deadline. Yeah, so that is the two variables you can play around with, lah. And that's how you avoid like working overnight, lah. You can also explain to the client that you no time, lah, because all the changes came in late. How they expect us to change to do all the drawings and everything by a certain time. So that's like the
It was quite a
practical way
large
of,
team at that point in time, It was like, I think
yeah.
there was more than 10 of us doing.
But do you think it could be avoided in the first place?
Okay,
I mean,
personally for myself, my own project, I'm one person, right? I have all
right.
the ways to manage my own time, right? Somehow always like that one. Like come to the time call submission, right? You just stay up and then you like I can make this better. I can put one more tree. I can do it. Then basically it's self I think one thing about architects is that we self torture ourselves. It's a very like here's my own hammer and I hit my own head situation. I can do it better. I know I can.
Yeah, so that is, I think, I mean, recently in the town hall from SIA, I think they're talking about all these things. Basically, I'm not sure if you know about the survey that was passed out from SIA, basically the Singapore Institute of Architects, asking us how is it like as a young architect, like a graduate. So some of the findings are quite interesting. I mean, it's not a surprise, but they were starting to think about how our young architects now, like myself and then those who my peers are not working now, right? What are the struggles and what are the challenges, lah? And a lot of it actually boils down to the job scope. Like, what are we doing as architects? There's a lot of things to do actually, and compared to, like maybe in 2000, all these works has been piling up, and the new guidelines and regulations have been increasing. Like the number of things to take note of. Like sustainability wasn't a thing back then. Now it's increasingly important.
It
For
is very
example,
important.
like design for maintainability, all these new regulations are coming in. So the job scope of an architect is actually widening, and there's no like corresponding increase in like salary or time given or that kind of thing, or workforce manpower man hours given to no sorry manpower given to help, and you just asked to do it all by yourself. So that is the main thing that I think hopefully SIA is trying to address. Yeah. Anyways, for us, for you who are still studying, so having been through an internship, one internship, right? Only one, right?
Only one. Okay, personally for me, I'm a very interesting case. So I'm a person, right, who like I have free time. I want to learn. Okay, very odd way of doing it, but during my like most people only have taken one internship. Most people, but for my first year, I was actually offered by a company to go to Belgium and work there, but because COVID hit us in the face, it died lah. Huh? Let's put it that way. It was I was supposed to go there and help with interior design because actually after Sec 4 I took interior design as an internship, and then I took graphic design internship instead. I mean, it sounds like a very odd thing to do for an architect, but I think it's still picture, right? Like 2D,
You
3D
can
are
use
still
it for your
nicer.
signage design, no? Signage design, wayfinding design. I mean, that's
Yeah.
also graphical in nature.
Like I took it. I did. Okay. No, I didn't go so atas. I know wayfinding design. No signboard. This kind of thing. What I design? I design advertisement. Also, still can in a way, right? You're still trying to sell something to someone. In
I
the
mean, you're
end, a
still learning how
building.
to use proportion and everything, right? It's still
Yeah.
visual in a sense. Yeah, it's still
It,
visual, like you need to know
it
like
was
the
very
ratio
important.
of things and like the font sizes and everything.
So I
It
would
also
say
play
I
a part.
personally have gone through about three internships, three official type of internship. I would say if you don't count me managing my company, don't count all this like side gigs, blog shop, rubbish. I think one thing that I
I
learned
wouldn't say
over
it's
the
rubbish though. It's just part of who we are, lah.
life.
Yeah, it's part of like your. I would say that you will you be consider yourself as like a curious nature. Like you always try things, not not being afraid to fail, or like not being afraid to not sure what could happen, but you just try anyway. Like always feeding the curiosity, right?
I would say no, not really like curious type of person, but I would say I'm a person who would try something, see whether it's working. If it ain't working, it's time to pull out, leave, try something else.
Yes,
Like they have
correct.
only this many hours in a day.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But yeah, you feel the freedom. You don't limit yourself to one thing, or like where you try one thing and if it's not working out, you pull it out. That's like your definition of trying new things. If it works out, they
Sometimes I try stuff and then it doesn't work, but I try something else and it doesn't work more. I go back to the first thing.
yeah. I think it's to your own opinion and your own gut feeling. Yeah. So but I just continue to encourage you to just keep on pursuing all these things. Yeah, yeah. But also take care of your mental health, physical health, social health. Yeah.
I
So all
wonder
of these.
whether I'll grow old, jaded, and run out of energy. Like all, okay, we have this one colleague. Okay, I won't say who it is. Who
Mm,
basically showed up to work. Right, he didn't even comb his hair. His shirt was buttoned wrong. He smelled really bad, and he was
oh,
just there at one of the companies I work for. And then, like in my mind, I was like, oh, okay, like, I think this man has run out of energy eventually. But like, I feel that this is something very strange because, like, if you're gonna overwork yourself to this point, right, it's a bit unfortunate. You know what I mean?
mm,
Yeah, like like taking care of oneself and like personal hygiene, personal like things, like even combing your hair in the morning is like stuff that is like so called basic necessities. To run out of energy to the point that you can't do this, right, is
mm,
quite bad. Like I felt really bad. Then I tried to like do more work under the person, so at least the person can like go back to a normal state. And eventually he
oh,
did. Yes, that's very good. But for the few days, I felt really bad for him.
I see. Yeah. So it's like also looking outwards. Like even when you're working, you see what other people are doing, and also to pick up on all these like social cues, right? It's also very important. And yeah, like what you say, like taking care of your colleagues is also important.
I mean, I'm a junior. There's not much I can do, but like in my own way, I try and like help
Yeah, I
a
mean
bit.
like you are observant and also like taking initiative to ask if they need help. Yeah. So I think that is a very good skill to have. Mm. And then all these things we talked about, I think it's quite interesting. Is there anything you want to cover on anything we missed out?
You wanted to discuss with me on the choice of taking masters.
Oh yes, correct, correct. So now for those who are also not familiar with SUTD, the way we do it, right? Is like after so it's like the school and then internship in school, then the in the middle is like a bachelor's degree, right? And you can choose
Mm.
to either take a gap year or you can continue to do the masters. 1 year, I think. 1 year, right? Yeah.
It's a year. There's a structured internship for 8 months, and then there is another 8 months of school and thesis, and then you get your masters.
Mm-mm. So it's still up to you to choose whether you want to continue or take a break or to continue to take masters. So for yourself, what do you are you at the crossroads? Are you thinking about it? Or are you not sure yet?
Okay, so for me, how I made my own personal choice is that I know I want masters because I want to be able to. I mean, this is a very far ambition. I want to be able to do massive renovations, massive buildings, and be able to get QP. If you don't take masters, you can't get QP apparently. So that's part of the reason why I want to do masters, because I want to have that extra experience and the extra knowledge and the deeper thinking that you would do throughout your master's thesis and things like that. Because I think it will be very helpful for the buildings that I want to do in future. Like I want to like part of the reason why I want to do architecture above anything else, any other job, is because I feel that it has lasting impact on a large community, and you don't have to put yourself as the picture of it. Like I mean, you can go in the government, you still have a large impact, yes, but everyone sees your face and then you're like, oh my god, no. Uh, it allows you to retain a private life while also be able to have a good, positive, hopefully positive impact on everybody else. And so I think that by getting masters, I think this positive impact can be like wider, bigger, and more deep in thinking as well. However, I know actually quite a few friends who choose not to take masters. Okay, why they choose not to take masters? Some of them do not want to continue into the building part of architectures. Like I got one friend who wants to possibly go into animations and things like that. The person really enjoyed term five, the Unreal Engine stuff. The person knew what she wanted, and she's actually very very good at art and very good at the things she does, and that's why she chose not to take masters, because it does not align with her life plan. Like I respect her because she's someone who knows what she wants very well and how she wants to go there, and she knows what she's good at and what she's maybe don't want to pursue as much as the things that she is very strong at. And I think I actually learned a lot from her on how to like choose my priorities in life. Like, cause I know if you take masters, you give up 1.5 years of your life. Actually, I have another friend who was actually thinking of not continuing. He wanted to continue, but then he was thinking, what if I don't continue? Could I go out and work in, for example, he really like the construction part of the industry. Could he go and become like a very foreman? He wanted to go and become a contractor, become a subcon or something. Then I think for him, he realized along the way that maybe his life plans are changing. You know what I'm trying to say? So there's a lot of people who um like feel that they want something and then like they reevaluate and then they're like maybe something else is better. For me personally, right now I may want masters, but I'm not sure whether at the end I would still want masters. But right now in my current condition, I think I do want masters, yes.
Cool. Yeah, so it's a lot of understanding of self that it needs to be done when you come to this decision. So yeah, let me hope for the best for you. I mean, you can always catch up with me if you need any advice other than for your boyfriend. So yeah, I don't know. Is there? Do you have? I think you have a social media platform to want to share that people want to follow.
Um, I guess you could. I have an okay. So quite an interesting thing is that I do have a lot of social media accounts for different purposes. Like one I run for my blog shop, one I run for my personal self. One of it I run for my photography and architectural sketches and things like that. So if you want like if people want to like find me, I'm at postcard photographs. Like you can find me at postcard photographs for architecture stuff. And for fashion and like other stuff that I would say is very different from like it's not very architectural related, but you just want to know me more as a person. I guess my main account is wow Robyn right now. I change the name time to time. I will update if I do change it, but yeah, you can find me there.
Yeah, I mean, I'll put the links in the description later. So yeah, thanks, Ryan, Robyn.
You can put me as Robyn because I think most people know me as that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So thanks, Robyn, for this conversation. All
Yeah.
right. All right. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.